Forgive me. But I'll start over. My name is Stephanie, and I am a marketing specialist here at Concordia Publishing House. And I am here today to talk with you and have you learn about preparing now for your vacation Bible school. It's such an important event that we all hold for our churches and our families. And so starting to prepare as soon as possible, even though it seems like, summer may be a long time away, but starting to prepare now is actually going to be key, I think, for having a successful VBS program. So we're going to go ahead and talk about that today. And since I'm running a little bit behind, I'm going to go ahead and continue on. I just want to make sure, though, that I don't have any more questions. So if you could just give me just one moment while I double check that. All right, looks like everyone can hear me now. I'm so sorry for that. I truly apologize. So please forgive me. All right, looks like everyone can though now. Great. Put that back. All right, let's continue then. So first thing I'm going to do is kind of just go over an overview for VBS or for this webinar, just the things that we're going to talk about, just so you can get an idea of everything that we're going to be going through. So first thing that we're going to talk about is the date, time, and location. Then we're going to go into the theme and the starter kit of your VBS program. We'll talk a little bit about budget. Talk about recruiting. That's going to be recruiting your volunteers, something that's extremely important, as I'm sure all of you know. We'll discuss promoting the event, and then praying. Praying, I think, actually is probably one of the most important things that we can do for Vacation Bible School. So I wanted to save best for last, I think. So we're going to talk about praying as well. And then I'm going to give you just a few additional resources that I have available that might be of interest for you. So let's go ahead and continue on. All right, so this is just a little quote that I wanted to share with you. And this says, "Success is where preparation and opportunity meet." And that's by Bobby Unser. What I love about this quote is that it really kind of hones in on that to have a successful, whatever it may be, that could be anything from your job to your VBS program. You need to make sure that you are prepared. So that's what we're talking about today. And then you need to make sure that you have the opportunity. And I'm sure all of you here that are listening today do have that opportunity. It's all around us. It's in our churches. It's in our communities. It's just reaching those kids. So I just love this quote, and I just wanted to share it with you today. So just to kind of get us kind of settled in for this webinar. Success is where preparation and opportunity meet. So we all want a successful VBS program. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about date, time, and location. This is probably something that you're going to want to start with first. That's why I have it here first. Making sure that you choose your date and time, especially, I think, are two of the most important things that you want to do as soon as you possibly can. And it may be something that you have the same thing every year, and that's great. But it's something that you want to look at and prepare for, because families, volunteers, everyone like that, they need time. They need to be able to put in requests for vacation time. They need to maybe plan their vacations and things like that. So something to think about. So first of all, when you're thinking about your date, some of the things that you want to think about are school. So I'm going to grab my pen here. Hopefully you can see that. Actually, my laser pointer. There we go. So some of the things that you want to think about when you're thinking about the date of your VBS is your schools that you are trying to reach. So whether that be your church school, whether that be the local public schools around you, whether that be some of the other churches, maybe you kind of all collaborate. Something to keep in mind though is, when do they end school? When does school start back up again? Is there any kind of summer schools that are going on? That's always something that you want to think about because you do want to go ahead and try to get the maximum amount of students that you can that are going to be coming to your VBS. So you really want to make it as easy as possible for these students to attend. So keep in mind schools, summer schools, and then something big to think about is vacations. So summer is such a huge time for vacations. I'm sure many of you know that. I know I don't know that. Since school is out, it's a easy time for families to take vacations. So if you do decide to have your VBS in the summer, that is something that you might have to navigate, But again, like I said, if you can get this information out there as quickly as possible, anytime now would be fantastic. Then your families can know, so they can go ahead and plan accordingly. Maybe they can plan their vacation at a different time, so that they can make sure that their kids are able to come to your VBS. Something else though to think about with date is I know some churches, they want to have their programs maybe in the spring, which is absolutely fine as well. You know, this is all about what's going to work best for you, your children, your volunteers, your church. And so that's something that you'll need to think about, but spring is always an option. I've even heard of winter, to be honest. It's definitely a little more rare. Um, and maybe it's even really late summer where you're almost getting into fall. So after school is actually started back. Again, just some of the things to think about. But again, whatever's going to work best for you and for you and your students, that's what you want to think about. All right, so the next thing, if I can get it going here, maybe. There we go. All right, so let's talk about the time. So I know a lot of you probably do the same time every year, whether that be morning, afternoon, or evening. But there's just things to consider when you're thinking about any of them. I know personally growing up when I went to VBS, it was always in the mornings. However, I know my mother at her church, they actually hold theirs in the evenings. And the reason that they do that is that so working adults and their kids are actually able to attend. So, you know, if you do hold a morning or an afternoon one, it's going to make it a little more difficult for some of those students to be able to maybe get to your location to actually attend your VBS because their parents are working. Again, just some things to keep in mind when you're choosing your time. Something else to think about also is weekend. There are definitely weekend VBSs. Maybe it's either one day where you just hold it on a Saturday. It could be a Saturday and a Sunday. I know for our VBS program here at CPH, we actually do have an option of how to turn our week-long VBS program into either a one day or a 2-day program. And so that's kind of in some of our leader materials. So it's definitely doable. So that might be an option for you as well, and something to consider when you're thinking about the time of your VBS. Lastly, I want to talk about your space, where you're going to hold this. So many of you are, and I would say probably the most common is to hold it at your church. And that's definitely a great thing. If you have the space and you can do that, that's fantastic. Something else though that you might want to consider, or that might be something that you have, is rentable space. So maybe it's a hall that you can rent out for an affordable price throughout the week. Again, it just kind of depends on, you know, how many kids you're going to have. Do you have a place where you can always hold, or where you already can hold it? Just a lot of different things to think about. And it might even be outside or at a park. I know currently, let's see, it looked like I had a question. I apologize. So I just wanted to check that really quickly just to make sure I'm not missing something. All right, yeah, I think everyone's good now. Okay. Sorry, looks like one of them just popped up. That's why I was like, I just want to make sure that I'll get to all the questions. If you have a question, great, go ahead and type it in, but I'm going to get to all those at the end. So just an FYI, I don't know if I mentioned that. Back to your location. Anyway, it might be outside or in an outside space or at a park. I know growing up, we actually held ours a lot at a park, which I thought was super fun. I always enjoyed being outside, making crafts and things like that. Something to consider though, if that is something that you are looking into or something that you typically do you have an area if there is bad weather, whether that just be rain or, I mean, here in Missouri, you know, we get tornadoes and things like that. So just making sure that you have a plan for some of those unforeseeable things that might come along. And again, maybe it's somewhere else that I haven't even thought of. But again, thinking of these 3 things in the beginning, I think is going to be, is probably one of the first things that you want to do. And it's extremely important: date, time, and location of your VBS program. All right, let's continue on. So let's go ahead and talk about your theme. I think that that's probably going to be the second thing that you really want to think about when you are coming up with your VBS and preparing now for your VBS is your theme. The big thing when you're thinking about what theme you want to go with this year for your Vacation Bible School programs, what are your goals? There are so many different programs out there. And yes, I am with CPH, so of course I would love for you to go with our Rainforest Explorers one, but I do know that there are so many out there. And so what you really need to look at is what are your goals? What are your goals for your VBS? And is the theme that you're wanting to utilize, is that going to go along with your goals? Are the stories in line with what you're looking for? Do they have the things and the items that you need? There's a lot of different things to think about when you're thinking about your theme, but I think something that you really want to keep in mind when you're making all your decisions is what are your goals for your VBS program. Like I said, there's so many different options. So just so many different options. Just make sure that you keep your goals in mind. And then once you go from there, you probably want to look at purchasing a starter kit. Typically, that's going to give you the best bang for your buck, and it's going to give you all the things that you're going to need to go ahead and get started actually on your VBS program. So theme is really important. It's something, especially with your theme too, something to keep in mind is that you want to make sure that your children keep engaged. I think that's why you typically see VBS programs with, fun, vibrant themes and decorations, and it's because we know that our little kids, their mind can go a mile a minute, so we want to make sure that we keep them engaged with fun activities that all point us to Jesus, but then also have those fun decorations and things like that that are going to catch their eyes. So second thing to think about is your theme. What are your goals? So all the different options that are out there, and then getting your starter kit so that you can go ahead and start with everything. All right, so next thing I want to talk about is budget. Budget is huge, and this is a pretty meaty topic actually as well. So I'm actually just going to kind of briefly go over this, just some of the things that you want to keep in mind when you are starting your budget. But I'm actually holding another webinar in February that's going to be similar to this one, but it's going to be all about budgeting for your VBS program. So keep an eye out for that. Just wanted to keep that in your mind that, if I don't delve into every single topic here when I'm talking about budgeting, it's because I'm going to really dive into that next month. So, but let's go ahead and talk about your budget. All right, everyone, set your budget now. I highly, highly encourage you to do this. Setting your budget now is going to ensure that you stay in your budget from the beginning. If you don't have a budget, you may just start, spending randomly or spend money on things that you may not necessarily need. We know that so many churches are definitely on limited budgets. It's not like many of us just has all the money in the world to go ahead and spend on our programs. So we want to make sure that we're getting the most bang for our buck. And if we get that budget, then we can kind of ensure that we're putting our money where it's going to be best. So start your budget now. Some of the things to keep in mind when you are starting your budget, some of the things that you're going to want to budget for are your starter kits, your leader materials, your student materials, whether that be, if they, excuse me, whether that be, leaflets that you need to buy, the, leader materials, so all the different things for all your leaders so that they can keep organized and everything like that. So that's going to be something that you want to think about when you're doing your budget. Decorations can definitely, be a little bit pricier of an item. It just kind of depends on what you're doing and what you're thinking of. Are you thinking of, trying to create your own? Do you have someone within your church that you can utilize that's going to be able to actually, create these things for you? Or is it going to be something that you're going to buy from, a supplier such as us, which we do offer as much as possible to make it as easy as possible, because we know not every congregation is going to have someone who's super crafty, like my mom. I didn't get that, Jane, who can help with some of that VBS stuff. So something you want to think about, though, is your decorations. You also want to budget for your snacks. This is really important. Little kids, they get hungry all the time. I know, I have a little guy, and I truly think that he could eat 24/7 if I let But snacks is something you want to keep in mind. You want to make sure that you keep that in your budget. Um, and especially if you're just doing maybe like a day long VBS program, you may even want to budget in there for lunch and or dinner or breakfast or things like that. So something to keep in mind. Crafts, you definitely want to keep crafts in mind, that you want to include that in your budget. All the different supplies that you're going to need for your crafts. And then any other supplies that you're going to need to get through your VBS. So do you have any kind of science experiments that you do with yours? I know all of our VBS programs have all these kind of cool, fun, different science experiments to do. So anything like that you're going to need to host your VBS. Is it some props that you're going to need for your storytelling? Are you going to need things like balls and whatnot for your games? All sorts of different supplies, but keep that in your budget. Promotion, that's really important actually, is thinking about promoting your event. Do you want to have a budget to promote your event? Is it something where maybe you want to spend a little bit of money doing some advertising, maybe on some social media sites? Is it something that you want to maybe print some materials for, print some flyers, hand them out to your local community? For promoting your VBS should definitely be part of your budget, whether that be small or large. It really just depends on, again, what you're looking for, what your goals for your VBS, and what you're wanting to get out of it. And then something else to think about, which may not be something that all congregations think about, but is volunteer appreciation. Is that something you want to include in your budget? Do you want to, maybe give small gift cards to those who volunteered, maybe with, like a little coffee mug, something like that? Or is it something you just want to do like handwritten notes from your students? There's so many different ways to do volunteer appreciation. But if it is something that you're looking to buy, then you may want to actually think about putting that in your budget so that you make sure that you have enough for your volunteers. All right, so, I forgot, I'm sorry, fundraising. That's something also to think about in your budget is fundraising. Because if you can raise some of your funds through some different fundraising efforts, whether that be cookie sales, you can do some, bake-offs, you could do a chili cook-off. There's so many different ideas and ways to do some fundraising. But if you start thinking about that now and you put it in your budget, say, hey, we want to make $100 a month up until June, that could be up to $600 that could go to your budget, so maybe you can buy a few more things that you weren't thinking of, maybe you can promote, whatever it may be. But fundraising and the ways that you're actually getting your money in, that's part of your budget as well. So something to keep in mind. All right, now let's continue. Again, here's just a little quote that I wanted to throw in there. When I saw this quote, it hit home for me, not only for VBS, but personally for me in life, to be honest. But I just kind of wanted to throw it out there because I thought it was important. So when we're talking about budgets, a budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. So that way, when you actually do set your budget, you are making a plan for where your money is going to go instead of spending the money and saying, oh my gosh, I have nothing left. Where did it go? So, and that's Dave Ramsey. So just something little quote to keep in mind. All right, so let's talk about the next thing, which is recruiting volunteers. It's so important for our VBS programs. Without our volunteers, we wouldn't be able to have a Vacation Bible School program. And I'm sure many of you feel the same way. So how can we go ahead and start recruiting now? Or why should we start recruiting now when it is until summer? All really great questions, right? All right, well, guess what? We need to start early. So let's do it. Let's start early because your volunteers need to plan ahead of time. Just like I said before, that your students need to think ahead of time, your families, so that they can actually plan to attend your VBS. Well, your volunteers need to do the same thing. Volunteers will also want to go on vacation a lot of times. They may need to take time off to actually go ahead and help for your VBS program. Again, lots of different things to keep in mind. So start your recruiting early. That's why if you go ahead and pick the date and the time and the location, and you can let your volunteers know early, you already know that part, you can start your recruiting process. All right. There we go. Where are some of the different areas that you want to think about? Decorating. Is that someone that is going to help you specifically? Are you going to have some people who just sit there and, put up all the decorations that are bought? Are you actually going to create your decorations? Definitely something to think about is that. Next is registration or admin. Are you going to have someone in particular who is going to be strictly for registering your students and doing some of the administrative work, dealing with paperwork, filling out forms and things like that? If there's someone in your congregation that would be willing to help you out that has expertise in that area, by all means, absolutely. It shouldn't always have to fall on, you if you are the director or you as the, kind of leader of your program. It shouldn't always have to fall on you. If there's someone within your wheelhouse that you can rely on to do some of these things, by all means, see if they're willing to help. 9 times out of 10, they're going to want to help. So, especially if it's going to further someone's love in Jesus. Something to think about, which is huge, site rotation. Super important, because if you're having the need for a volunteer for your games, for someone to do your crafts with your kids, for someone to set up snacks, for someone to do storytelling, there are so many different things that you need volunteers from. And especially with kids, you want to make sure that you have enough people that are able to watch these kids, because as you know, I mean, for some of the younger kids, they like to run off, and you don't want to lose anyone. Let's just put it that way. So again, site rotation, something to think about. Something else that maybe you didn't think about is a babysitter. And this isn't necessarily for, kids that are too young that are actually coming to your VBS, but it might be for some of your volunteers. So maybe there's some, youth in your congregation that would be willing to do a little bit of babysitting for a few hours, while their volunteers can help out. I have a little guy, he's not even a year and a half yet, so too young still for VBS, but obviously not young enough. I can leave it home. And if there's someone, if my church offered babysitting, that would make it so much easier for me to be able to volunteer. So again, something to think about. Your church, it may not be necessary, it may not be something that you need, but something that you should think about. And last, tech. Do you need a tech person? Is that something that you want to incorporate into your VBS? Some VBSs, or some directors and some programs like to be, very low tech. We don't really need a lot of that. We're just going to use a lot of our Bibles and write things and all of that. Excellent, great. If that works for you, that's fantastic. However, there's going to be those that want to do these PowerPoint presentations and want to show videos and want to do all that kind of fun stuff. So are you going to need someone to help with you? Maybe. I'm not the most techie person ever. I can kind of find my way around sometimes. But if I have someone, again, in my congregation that's willing to help, by all means, let them help me. I would absolutely love that. So recruiting. Start thinking about your volunteers now. Start early, because they need a plan as well. And these are, again, just some of the different areas that you might want to start thinking about where you'll need help for your VBS program. Something I also want to mention is that I will be, let's see, I just want to make sure. It looked like someone said they lost my audio. Looks like it's okay on my end though, so let's hope. If you have an issue, let me know. Anyway, I also wanted to mention though that we are hosting a webinar on recruiting and keeping your volunteers, and that's going to be in March, Wednesday, March 11th. So again, something to keep in mind. I'm going to be hosting that as well. So, all right, let's continue on. All right, so let's talk about promoting your VBS. Why do you need to promote your VBS? Because you're wanting to reach as many kids as possible so that they in turn can become followers of Christ and learn of Jesus's love for us. I know that's my number one thing. That's why I help out with VBS. That's why I want to do everything I can with it. That's why I love working with children and doing a lot of the children programs here at CPH, is because I think children are our future, one, and if we can secure their love for Jesus and in Jesus at a young age, I think it's going to last through a lifetime. So I think it's really important. But anyway, let's talk about promoting your VBS. Again, kind of as I said before, families start looking early for summer activities as well. Not only is it thinking about vacations, but families may also want to think about, do they need to send their kids to a summer camp? Is that something they're looking for? So if you want to make sure that you get as many kids as possible, let people know early when your VBS program is, and then they can plan around that time. Also, something when you're promoting, something to think about is take into consideration the time that it takes to plan, create, and print certain elements if you're promoting. So such as flyers, postcards might be something that you're thinking about. Those things don't just happen overnight. You probably need at least a few weeks. So if you're wanting to, put out a poster or a postcard at, the beginning of March, well, you probably should start here beginning February just to kind of get started on that to make sure that you get everything back in time. All right. Something that I highly recommend is planting the seed 90 days before your event. That's just kind of a marketing strategy that we have. Is your 90 days out, is that you kind of want to start that buzz. So if you're hosting something in June, that's going to be June. Okay, make sure I get there. That's going to be March. I had to count back. Sorry about that. So again, that's coming up sooner than you think. I mean, it's almost, we're the middle of January, I think, right now. Yeah, so it's going to be here quicker than you know it, and we all know time flies. So something to think about. But also when promoting, so where can you promote? What can you promote? How can you do it? Promoting in your church is obviously going to be one of the best and easiest ways for you because it's already right there in your wheelhouse. So it could be something where you put it in your bulletin or some kind of announcement that you have, depending on what your church has. Maybe your church sends out emails. I know mine does. So that's a great place to put that as well. If you have any kind of social media page, excellent, put that out there as well for your entire congregation. Again, talking about print, flyers, postcards, banners, posters, those are great too. You can put those up throughout your church hall. Maybe that's something that you can put up in your Sunday school classes, just kind of depending on what you're thinking. Maybe it's something you put up or ask, some of the local public schools if they're willing to put up the posters for you. But the earlier, again, you can get it out there, the more it's going to stick in people's brains. So highly recommend doing that soon. Last thing, online. We know that's huge these days, especially for the millennials and the Gen Zers. So online. Facebook events, you can definitely, if you have a church account already, you can go ahead and create an event for your VBS program and kind of get that out there already. Maybe you think about doing some social media ads. You can actually, do a little bit of advertising to kind of reach a little bit of a broader audience on social media if you have a little bit of a budget for that. Social media posts, again, that could be Instagram, that could be Twitter, Facebook, maybe you do YouTube videos. That's actually now, one of the highest ranked social media platforms. And then Google advertising. You could even throw out some local Google ads. Again, if that's in your budget and if it's something that you would like to do. So promoting your event, though, is important because that's how you're going to get possibly new people, or you're going to make sure that you're reaching those that have already come to you. And again, starting early is going to be key here because people do need to plan. So, all right, my favorite, the last thing I want to talk about is praying. Praying, it seriously is, I think, the most important thing you can do for your VBS to prepare. Yes, there are a lot of things that you need to do for logistics, but without God, without Jesus, there would be nothing. We wouldn't even have a VBS program, and so we wouldn't even be doing any of this. But without his love and his kindness and his generosity, for everything that he's given us as those who are helping direct or put on a VBS, he's given us all the talents and he's giving us the tools that we need to be able to further reach these children and through a VBS program. So praying is so important. So Definitely want to pray for our children. So start thinking about, all the children that you hope to attend, that you want to attend, the ones that you know will attend. Pray for them. Pray that they'll hear Jesus's word and come to love their Savior. Just pray for the children in general. Honestly, there are so many ways to pray for the children, but I think that's extremely important. Pray for the families, praying for the mom and dads, maybe that need a little bit of encouragement to send their child to a VBS program. Pray for the families maybe that are going to have a harder time being able to figure out how to send their kids to the VBS. Pray for the families just in general, that they can come together too around your VBS program and maybe grow as a family in Jesus's love. So many different things to pray for. Pray for your community. I think that's really important. Praying for your community that they will see what your VBS is trying to do, and that maybe you can capture some of those people to grow in a loving relationship with Christ. Pray for the community that they would help you in sharing your event so that we can share Christ more. Just pray for your community, and that could be not just your church community, but the entire community around you. Maybe it's your neighborhood, maybe it's your city, just depending on, how big your city is. Maybe it's just the street right there next to you. Whatever your community may be, pray for them. And lastly, pray for you. It's important to pray for yourself as well. It truly is. Yes, we want to make sure that we're thinking about the children and the families and the community, but it's important to make sure that you're praying for yourself, that that you can take your talents and utilize them how is going to be best for your community and your congregation and for your families, so that you can put on the best VBS program possible, so that Jesus can show his love to as many people as possibly can. So it really is. It's important to pray for you and for any of your other volunteers and directors or pastors and things like that. I think that's really important because you're the ones, behind the lines, you're, behind the screen, getting everything done. And you need some prayers too. We all need some prayers in our lives. So, all right, with all that, I just want to say thank you so much for coming today. I hope you got a little bit of information on how you can start preparing now for your VBS program. A few things I just wanted to point out, kind of said a few of these throughout the program. We have our Rainforest Explorers website, which is right here, rainforestexplorers.cph.org, if you're interested in finding out more information on the CPH VBS theme, which is Rainforest Explorers. And I love our little sloth this year. He's super cute. So super fun. Love our program. Love the message. Excellent. There also is a VBS Facebook page that we have. So it's CPH's VBS. So if you go into Facebook and if you search CPH's VBS, you should come to this. Go ahead and like that. We just throw out some information on there from time to time, helpful information. Again, it's just a nice way to connect. Again, I think I told you about some of these webinars upcoming. So these are some of those webinars that I talked about. Next week, I'm actually doing an overview on the Rainforest Explorers program. So that's going to be at 11 o'clock on the 23rd. We've got the budgeting for your VBS, where I'll really go in depth on how to create and stick to your budget for your VBS program. That's going to be on February 6th at 11. And then recruiting and keeping volunteers. We know volunteers are so important. So what are great ways to recruit and actually make sure we're keeping those from year to year? That's going to be on March 11th at 11 a.m. These are all Central Standard Times as well. I also do have my contact information on there. So if you have a question and I didn't get to it, if you think of something later, please feel free to reach out to me. I am more than happy to help. That's what I love doing. I'm here for you. I want you to be successful, so I'm here to help. You can also reach our VBS team in general. It also comes to me, vbsteam@cph.org. Pretty easy. Last thing I want to do, though, before I take questions, I want to just end in prayer. I think it's important to kind of circle back and bring it all to Jesus. So if you would, please, I'd appreciate that. Dear Jesus, thank you so much for allowing me to be here today with all of these wonderful people from all across the country in your presence to talk about Vacation Bible School and how we can start preparing now and make it the best possible one that we can for our kids so that they can have a closer relationship with you. That's our main goal, is to bring as many people in to your presence and in your love so that they can feel your love in your presence. Again, please help us in every way possible to have a successful VBS program. And thank you for everything that you've given us to share our ministry for you. In your name, I pray. Amen. All right. So thank you again so much for coming today. If you do have any questions, I'm looking right now. Please let me know. I am here to answer questions. That's what I do, amongst other things. So I'm not, oh, here we go. There's all my questions. All right. I currently am not seeing any. Oh, okay, there you go. Tracy says, will your webinar next month include fundraising ideas? Honestly, I haven't put together the actual complete program yet. So sure, I'd be happy to throw in some fundraising ideas for that. And I actually think that's a great idea. I don't have a specific webinar plan just for fundraising. So absolutely, I'm happy to do that. Thank you for the idea. If you ever have an idea on a webinar that you would like me to host, Sunday school, Vacation Bible School, anything education related, let me know. I'm always looking for ideas, so please feel free to email me. I truly love to hear from you. You're who I'm here for. So thank you, Tracy. you're cute. So yes, I'll have to write that in my notes. All right. Well, I'm not seeing any more questions. Again, if you have one, let me know. I am here to help. Please email me. Again, my contact information is up there. Oh, this also has been recorded. So we are going to download this. I'll upload it then to YouTube, and then we'll send out a link to everyone. So if you want to share this with anyone else that you know that you think might be helpful for, please feel free. So probably this afternoon, if not, then tomorrow morning. So something to keep in mind. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a blessed day. Thank you for being here.